Fellow Australians, this weekend marks the 10th anniversary of the civil uprising in Cronulla. Australia First commends now, as we did in 2005, the youth of Cronulla and other areas of Sydney and many other people who turned out over the week-long upsurge that marked the civil uprising. We condemn now, as we condemned then, the racist and political violence of certain Middle Eastern groups who came to Cronulla and other Sydney suburbs to chastise Australians for their presumption. This weekend, a certain group of people are also assembling in Cronulla for a memorial for what they say were the Cronulla riots. They also intend to say that the civil uprising at Cronulla, they don't use that term, was all about combating Islamic gangs. We say that these people are in fact frauds and liars. They would trash the heritage of the civil uprising in Cronulla. They would yield to multiculturalist propaganda about riots and distort it all down to a question of Islam. The perpetrators of a lot of the violence in Cronulla in the lead up to the civil uprising and subsequently were not only Muslims but Christians too. What they shared in common was a membership of one or two prominent Middle Eastern ethnic groups. Why are these people deciding to do this and play this game over the issue of Islam? The so-called great Australian patriot Sherman Burgess says that what it's all about this weekend at Cronulla is, quote, uniting all races against Islam. Now, I'm not sure whether he means across the globe or simply in Australia or somewhere, but it seems to me a geopolitical delusion that would rival the appetites of Genghis Khan. Danny Nalia of Rise Up Australia, a Sri Lankan minister and Christian Zionist, says that what it's all about in Australia now is uniting all ethnic backgrounds to assimilate them to a certain so-called Australian identity. But an Australian identity that has no ethnicity at all. That in fact to us is the ethnic cleansing of our nationality. Mr Nick Folkes, the leader of the Party for Freedom, has a similar view of what Australian nationality is. Indeed, to him, it's a matter of flags and language and other nice stuff, but there's no ethnic component to it. It seems to us that this whole issue about Islam and the attempt to assimilate the civil uprising into the question of Islam is nothing more and nothing less than cheerleading for certain politicians in the Liberal government who now seek endless Australian intervention in the politics of the Middle East, usually to arrive at a result that serves their great interest, Israel. You would have noticed at certain rallies at which Mr Burgess, Mr Nalia and Mr Folkes are common attendees, Israeli state flags. The Israeli state flag had nothing whatsoever to do with the civil uprising in Cronulla. It has nothing to do with Australian nationalism or patriotism. It has nothing to do with Australia whatsoever. But to them, it does. I think because of the ruthless exposure on our part of what these people we call civic patriots and Zio-patriots are trying to do with the legacy of Cronulla, they in turn have come back and actually said that Australia First Party is in some manner or other, and you like this, pro-Islamic. We see the issue of Islam as an immigration problem alongside of many other immigration problems, no more and no less. There's certainly no sympathy on our part, so to speak, for something that is alien to Australian values and culture. Mr Folkes of the Party for Freedom has gone even further and recently suggested that I personally am a person who gives information on this group of so-called patriots to anarchists and communists. What a load of nonsense. And indeed, if Mr Folkes has got any evidence of such a thing, I would strongly suggest that he produces it now rather than simply stand as the liar he assuredly is. This weekend, Australia First Party will carry out a couple of minor actions in the Sutherland Shire and continue to issue material in the Shire and to responsible media in the lead up to the 10th anniversary of the civil uprising. We understand that certain far left and anarchist groups intend to demonstrate in the Shire against these civic patriots. Their freedom of speech, although we condemn the content of it, should be upheld, and the attempt of the Sutherland Shire Council to ban their erroneously informed meeting should also be condemned. After our events are over, any Australian patriot or nationalist who is interested in coming to an actual exposition of what the civil uprising was in fact about are more than welcome to attend the offices of Australia First at 725 Princess Highway, Tempe, and participate in the afternoon's activities. In commemoration of the civil uprising of Cronulla, thank you.